Yo, 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 what's going on after the fight? Well, it's your boy Money back with another one, man. And we go have a good one today, my friends. We go have a good one today. Mr. Pacquiao, he's instrumental. What's going down? What's going down? Yes, sir, yes, sir. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Y'all hit that like button shot. Come in, my brothers and sisters. Wow. Wow. Man, Sanchez, I appreciate that, my brother. EJ, what's going down, family? From South Texas. I'm talking South Texas, okay? Okay, man, you Sereno. I feel you, my brother. I feel you. Yeah, hit that like button for me, bro. You know, they don't do too good with sending out the notifications to help with the visibility of the show. You know, we go hit Richard up in about 14 minutes. I'm gonna let some people get up in the building. Get my brother Key up in here, and we got to do it over the phone too. So we wanted to bring Richard in on the live stream, but things are happening right now. Things are happening, but we got Richard though, bro. You feel me? The great Richard. You know, get Richard's flowers while you can smell them, man. You know what I mean? A lot of cats they try to, what I'm saying, beat around the bush, hate on them. They try to throw stones at them, but you can't keep a good man down. You understand what I'm saying? Richard bounced back like 2-3. Richard bounced back like 2-3. Feel me? You know what I'm saying? When he got Noniot Donair. Rocking out with Jon Jones. Got the Baldarius brother still, if I'm not mistaken. And we gonna find out today. We gonna find out today. Yeah, bro. Like, yeah, we got some questions. We got some questions. Got a lot of people be hating, bro. And I got a special treat for y'all tomorrow too, man. I got a debate coming up tomorrow. We're gonna do it right here on Money Brown TV. He got some of this Money Brown flavor. Or somebody trying to challenge me to some bully bull that he ain't gonna win on. Matchroom boxing, bro. I just want to be Money Brown, bro. That's it. You know what I'm saying, Soriano? I just want to be Money Brown, bro. My brother, Underground Asylum in the building. Somebody who been supporting me from the beginning, showing love. What's going down, Underground? Then we got my bro in the building. Key, what's going down? Everything.
What it do? Back at it once again.
You know what I'm saying? Putting in double time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, bro. Again, we gonna get Richard on in about 20 minutes. Let the people get up in here. chilling like a villain. Fans perspective, the cat that tried to, that tried to hate on me that I was talking about the other day. We go get him on here tomorrow. We go handle that work. But today we go enjoy Richard. We go get him in here tomorrow and handle that work.
What's good? With salute to everybody in the chat.
Marcus Hayes was going down, bro. Yeah, we got the great Richard coming up, man. He's already getting that workout in, huh, Key?
Yeah, man. I was trying to get it in because after this I gotta go run and pick up the babies and stuff. So I was trying to get it in, man.
What's up, Sauce Squad? Austin Don back again.
Yes, sir. My phone tripping.
Trying to get the whole live stream took down, huh?
Nah, my phone, my both.
Omega, my brother.
What's good with the Omega? Big Omega in the building.
That's my ride or die right there, man.
Sir.
I ain't got to worry about nothing. Omega in the building. Carlos, what's going down, bro? What's going down? Christian, I appreciate that, bro.
I can't wait till this weekend, man. We got hell of fights this weekend, man.
Oh, man, it's going down this weekend, bro. It's up there. And they great fights, bro.
Great fights.
We got Tank Barrios. We got Lubin, Rosario. Ain't Lomachenko up on the 26th?
Yeah, Lomachenko fighting Nakatani.
Yes, sir. Oh, it's going down.
Yeah, man. I really think that the game been missing Lomachenko at 138. I know a lot, I'm saying. I know how certain people, got their feelings about Lomachenko, but at the end of the day, I think we all can agree that he can fight, and he's another name that we need at 135.
Lomachenko's still on my pound for pound list. He's still on my pound for pound list, bro.
Yeah. I don't know where I got him at, but he definitely on my pound for pound list, top 10. Right. I don't know where I got him at. But bro, they got names like Usyk and Tyson Fury and who else they got on there? They got one cat I don't even know. I never even heard of him.
Oh yeah, Martinez, the champion. He fighting on the zone.
Dude, yeah. Then they got who else they got?
Like Martinez.
They got the dude that just what's his name that just fought Chocolatito. They got
Juan Estrada.
They got Estrada on there. I mean, come on, man. Them dudes, you know what I'm saying? I respect them dudes, but them dudes ain't no top 10 pound for pound over guys like Jermell Charlo and Gervonta Tank Davis, and you know what I'm saying? Like Anui's a hell of a fighter, right?
Yeah.
He's a hell of a fighter, but if you have him number 3 on your pound for pound list, because he knocks out everybody, right? That's why they have him number 3, because he is knocking out everybody that he fight pretty much. I mean, because if he was having decisions against everybody that he fought, I don't think they would have him on the pound for pound list. Now, with that being said, if that's the reason you have Noniot on your pound for pound list, well, why the hell Tank Davis ain't on your pound for pound list?
Right.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? He knock out everybody he get in the ring with. So, and I mean, to tell you the truth, ain't neither one. I mean, Anui's not fighting that much better competition than Tank Davis is. So, and it's nothing to take away from Noniot, but it's just making the point that how can you have him that high on your pound for pound list and then Tank Davis ain't on it? No.
They're looking at Noniot as being unified, and I do got Noniot on my pound for pound list, but I ain't got him above no Errol Spence. I ain't got him number 3 neither.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. See, my whole point is like, if you're gonna have him number 3, some of them got number 2, and then you don't have Tank Davis on there at all. I don't know. It's just that's why that pound for pound list, right? It's just like, it's whatever to me, man. I don't really, you know what I'm saying? I don't really be wanting to argue with cats over a pound for pound list, but when I see certain stuff like Tyson Fury on the pound for pound. And I'm like, come on, man.
Facts. But yeah, but you know, that's why I say to each his own. You don't get no title, you don't get nothing for pound. So I just let it be what it is. When cats be thinking like, oh, this, that, and the third, you don't get nothing for pound, bro. You ain't getting no titles. You ain't getting nothing.
I know exactly who Juan Estrada is. I've seen Juan Estrada fight live, but like I said, he a hell of a fighter, but I just don't think he top 10 pound for pound.
Right. Rich so he can go right now. Trying to let some more people get in the building, but I'm about to hit him up. Yeah, though, you know how they go though, bro. To each his own. People gonna put on their pound for pound list who they like.
And I'm gonna keep it real. I don't know. You know what? Truthfully, my pound for pound, I haven't went past 5. Like you know what I'm saying? I've told people my top 5, top 6. Other than that, I haven't even thought past that.
Yeah. How you got it set up?
I got Canelo number 1. I got what did I have? I had Canelo number 1. I think I had
EJ number 2.
I think I had Errol Spence number 2. I had Canelo number 1, Errol Spence number 2. I had number 3. I know I had Charlo number 4. I mean, not Charlo. I know I had Crawford number 4.
Hey, just put Cholo 3.
I might have had Charlo 3. I had
T.O. Josh Taylor.
I had T.O. above Josh Taylor, but I got Josh Taylor above T.O. now. You know what I'm saying? And then Josh Taylor. Then Teofimo Lopez. You know, something like that. It was something I had to really think about. But yeah, I know I had Canelo number 1 and I had Errol Spence number 2. I know I had Terrence Crawford at 4. And the reason I got 10, because I know everybody just want to, Terrence Crawford he got to be at least number 2. No, he don't, because it's about what you did lately. Terrence Crawford hasn't fought no top competition in a long time.
Thanks.
You know what I'm saying? So you can't just stay on the pound for pound list ahead of everybody just on the simple fact of what ESPN is telling you.
Right.
I mean, at some point in time, I need to see, I need to see you against top competition. If that's the case, I could easily have Tank Davis number 1 on my pound for pound list. You feel what I'm saying? Like just keep it 100. Like, you know what I'm saying? If we going off of that ESPN theory and that Terrence Crawford is beating everybody by knockout, if we're gonna go off that theory. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, but it what it is. Like I said, it is what it is. At some point in time, I expect all of these guys, they got to get in the ring and prove it, and the only ones that's really proving it is Errol Spence, Canelo, who else? Jamel Errol Spence, Canelo. Errol Spence, Canelo, Jamel Charlo, and
gotta get Josh Taylor his credit. Josh Taylor,
yep. Errol Spence, Canelo, Josh Taylor, and Lomachenko. He fighting a lot of the top dudes. Teofimo Lopez.
T.O. too, yeah. If I say
so
all right, y'all. So,
and like I said, Nui is doing his thing. I cannot say he's not doing his thing, but I know a lot of the fighters that he fought, but some of them dudes I don't know. So I can't, I'm not too familiar with some of them dudes that he fighting.
Yeah. He moved up to some of the weight class. Like I know him, especially when he beat my Puerto Rican man that was undefeated, trying to get his name. I think he knocked him out in like 2 or 3 rounds, where he supposed to been his biggest test. I knew he was moving up the weight class, beating the top dogs. So he get his just due for me, but I ain't got no damn number 3. That's a fact.
Right.
But we go ahead and get Rich on the line, y'all. We ain't gonna wait too much longer, man. We doing it over the phone, y'all. So y'all gotta bear with us here. Got the phone, got the computer turned up. Let's get it. Okay, let me know if you can hear Richard good too. Let me know if it sounds good.
Okay.
Hey, it's Richard.
Man, the great Richard. How you doing, Rich?
Good, how are you? What a pleasure to be on the phone with you, with somebody who actually does the work and knows what he's doing.
Man, it's an honor, bro. Can y'all hear Richard good?
I can hear you very well.
Okay, yeah, man. First of all, I want to thank you, Rich, for giving me your time, man. And I want to thank you for everything that you do in boxing and everything that you did in boxing. Because you don't know, Rich, you got a lot of haters out here, man.
That's what they say, you know. But I don't really let it bother. I don't really let it bother me, you know. I just do my stuff, and the most important thing I judge myself and what I do against is how the fighters believe in me. And you can go out there and ask pretty much any fighter, well, maybe with the exception of Oscar, but other than that, they all talk very highly of me because I'm a promoter first. I'm a fighter first promoter, and I think that's what the fighters really like. And as long as the fighters are happy, I am happy.
I mean, that's why I'm so clinched on to you. Like I listen to the fighters, and I like I heard the praises they gave you. And like I said, I've been following you for a while, for a long time. You just don't know, Rich. So, and I always gave you just doing your flowers, and I always want to make videos on you and give you your flowers. I say you don't get enough praise that you deserve, especially for everything that you did in boxing, and you really building up Golden Boy.
Well, I whatever you do, I always try to do it right. And as I said, I like to empower the fighters because, our sport starts and ends with the fighters. And their praise means the world to me. And, you see what I've done with Noniot Donair after he was let go by his old promoter. A lot of people felt he was washed up, but I didn't believe he was washed up. He was the guy's a legend, and I believe he deserves another shot. And look where he is now. He's not only world champion again, but he is about to unify the 118-pound division. So I like to do things like that. Or look what I've done with Bernard Hopkins. A lot of people felt he was done, and look what we've done. Look, like when he went to go and fight Kelly Pavlik. Nobody gave Hopkins a chance. And look what happened. I mean, he schooled him. He won every single round, every second of every round. And after the fight, the post-fight press conference, he comes in, he looks at all the typical Hopkins style. He looks out there and all the media guys, and he said, you know what? All you guys, nobody believed in me. There's only one person who believed in me, and that was Richard Schaefer. And he handed me over his entire outfit. I mean, the hood, the shorts, the shoes, the walk-in robe, everything from that Pavlik fight, and it has a very prominent place now in my house because this is again praise from the fighters, and that's in the end the only thing that matters. But what I really like about you, when you did that Canelo story, you actually took the time. You went back in time and you put the different pieces together in a way nobody else has ever done, and that really impressed me.
Man, I appreciate that. Look, I didn't know if it was the real. I said, hold on, man, is this the real Richard? Am I getting catfish?
I usually don't DM people. I just don't do that. I'm not so internet and social media savvy, and I should probably spend more time on it. But, I really had to give you the praise because you deserved it.
I mean, I appreciate that. I got my co-host on here, Richard. His name, Keon, Everything Boxing. But before I let him get to you, Rich, I want to know what got you into boxing. Like, what was your thing of you getting into boxing?
Well, the interesting thing is I was born and raised in Switzerland, not exactly a boxing hotbed, but I remember when I was like 10 years old or so, I was sneaking out of I put the alarm clock under my pillow so that my parents don't hear it, and then I snuck out when it was time, usually like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. Of course, my parents wouldn't let me wake up, but I found a way to, with the alarm clock under my pillow, to sneak out and turn on the TV without volume, and I was glued to the screen watching the Ali fights, and that sort of like really got me hooked about the sport. I really liked it, but my family has always been involved in banking. So when I came to the United States, working for a large Swiss bank, I basically was in the family business, banking, and not in my wildest dreams did I ever believe that I would end up in boxing. And then 1999, Oscar lost against Trinidad, and he decided that he wanted to take matters in his own hands, and started to shake up his management and ultimately his promotional situation as well. And he came to see me. I was at the bank with my nephew, Raul Jaimes. They were like childhood friends.
Okay.
And he introduced me to Oscar. When I was at the bank, I used to follow Oscar and other fights as well. I used to go to Vegas to see his fights. And I even had, as a banker, I had season tickets at the legendary Grand Olympic Auditorium, which is like the Mecca of boxing, was the Mecca of boxing here in Los Angeles, going back to like the 1920s and so on. So I had season seats there. So Oscar and Errol came to see me, and they said they needed some help, some direction, and that Oscar wanted to really take control of his career. And I said, well, what you need a good lawyer, and you need a good accountant, and you guys know the boxing business better than anyone. And I helped them select the lawyer, helped them select an accountant, and then we stayed in touch. And then some months later, in 2000, they came to see me again, and Oscar said, look, I'm gonna need to hire somebody. I can't manage and promote and do all these things. I need to focus on my own career. And he started singing back then as well. I need somebody to come and help me run the business. I said, well, what we do is we hire a search firm and we find the right guy. And he says, no, I already found the right guy. I said, oh, great, then let's put the contract together. He says, no, he didn't really know what to ask. He said, well, would you consider leaving the bank? And at that point, I was the head of the Western United States, the deputy CEO of the North American private banking business for UBS. Okay. And I was like, well, let me think about it. I went home, discussed it with my wife. My wife is Mexican, so she has boxing in her blood. And she says, well, you know what, you can always go back to banking, but why don't you give it a try? And that's what I did. And I joined Oscar. I gave his attorney my 1099, showing him how much I made at the bank. And I told Oscar, I said, look, here's the deal. You pay me the same I make now. And then at the end of the year, every year, you give me a bonus depending on how happy you are with my services. And that's what we did. And I was there until 2014, and obviously helped building up Golden Boy and really changing the way boxing has been promoted, particularly on the pay-per-view side as well.
Okay. I'm gonna let my co-host get in. Got anything for Richard Key?
Yeah, how you doing, Richard Schaefer? This is Key on Everything Boxing. It's a pleasure to be on with you.
Oh, of course, my pleasure.
Yeah, so Richard, speaking of Golden Boy, you coming from the banking industry and helping De La Hoya build Golden Boy, we know what happened when you left Golden Boy. Tell us a little bit about the recruiting, because you guys had a big stable. Tell us a little bit about, who was in charge of bringing all these fighters to Golden Boy during that time. You had a huge stable. At one point, I think Golden Boy was the biggest promotional company that there was out there.
Oh, thank you. That's a great question. And it's a very interesting question as well. And yes, in fact, I think we were back then the largest promotion company in the world. We basically, against all odds. So when we decided to establish Golden Boy Promotions, first we were thinking about doing a management company. We actually had Golden Boy Management. And then I realized that was more like a babysitting job, so I didn't really want to do that. And I realized that boxing had been really run by two guys since the 1960s, by Don King and Bob Arum. And they were very powerful in the sport, and Arum still is. And so when I called the then president from HBO. Oscar was working with HBO. He told me, "Are you guys crazy? Are you guys crazy starting a promotion business? Those two guys are going to eat you guys alive. I mean, what do you know, a Swiss banker, about boxing? And Oscar is a fighter. This is never going to work. I think you guys should stick with management." And I said, "Oh, I like my chances," because I had this crazy idea on how to build Golden Boy. And what I did is I went back to, I think it was 1918 or 1913, when in Hollywood, all the main actors were tied to a particular studio, and they could only do the movies for that particular studio. They couldn't go and work for another studio. Similar a little bit like it is with boxing, still is today now. You know, if you're with PBC, you're with PBC. If you're with Aram, you're with Aram. If you are with Eddie, you're with Eddie. You know, with Matchroom, it's very difficult to cross over and put the events together. Well, that used to be exactly the same way in Hollywood. So back in 1918, the four biggest stars, they were all under a contract with the MGM movie studio. That was Charles Chaplin, Douglas Fairbanks, Mary Pickford, and J.W. Griffith. These were the biggest Hollywood stars of the time. And they said, "You know what, enough is enough. We are going to break away, and we're going to start our own company." And they started a new studio, a new movie company called United Artists, which still exists today. So they really broke up the Hollywood system as it relates to entertainers. And I said, why don't we do the same with boxing? Why don't we allow some of the biggest names to be shareholders, owners in Golden Boy? And Oscar thought it was a great idea. So we invited the first one. Obviously, Oscar was a shareholder. He was the main shareholder. So we invited in Marco Antonio Barrera, the Mexican legend, who just came off some big wins and so on. And he was like one of the big names in the sport, the baby-faced assassin. And then we invited Sugar Shane Mosley in, and he became an owner. And then we invited Bernard, the Executioner Hopkins, in. So basically, almost overnight, we had Oscar, we had Barrera, we had Mosley, and we had Hopkins. And that was important because all four were fighting in different weight classes, and they were big names. So other promoters had to come to us to get deals done. And of course, it started to give us more leverage with HBO as well. If we suddenly have under one umbrella four of the biggest names in the sport, and that sort of like got the whole thing rolling. The leverage we got with that was tremendous.
Man, that's amazing. We never thought it started like that. But I tell people all the time that you started Golden Boy. So, what was the first biggest fight that you helped build, Richard?
Well, actually, that's a great question as well. So we just signed Marco Antonio Barrera, right?
Okay.
I mean, beside the Oscar fights we did and so on, but we just signed Marco Antonio Barrera, and he was going to do like a voluntary title defense, and we were going to do it from Texas. I think it was in San Antonio, and that was our first fight with Barrera after he just joined us, and we were going to put him in with a guy who was like one or two weight classes lower than him, and nobody really heard of this guy. And so we thought, like, well, you know, that should be a safe fight. And man, were we wrong. The guy he fought was Manny Pacquiao.
Ooh.
Woo!
That was before anybody knew about Manny Pacquiao, before Manny Pacquiao was the Manny Pacquiao of today, and he beat Barrera. He beat Barrera, and that was the first fight we did. So that was a little setback, but, you know, I believe as well when some of these big names, you know, you win some, you lose some. Losing is not the end of everything. And, you know, we can learn there from UFC as well, where they very effectively reuse these fighters, even though they had a loss. And if a fighter is exciting and if he loses, you know, people want to see him even more. But anyway, that was the first big fight we did, so that didn't turn out the way we wanted.
Yeah, but I always say that, Rich. I say we got to get out the Floyd Mayweather era of praising the O. I think that's what get a lot of fighters jammed up. because they praise the O too much, right? But when we look at the Hall of Fame, we see fighters in the Hall of Fame. Majority of the fighters in the Hall of Fame is not undefeated, and they have multiple losses on their record. And I think that what it's like you said, the UFC, they can lose and still get praised. But nowadays, I think because of the fans, like soon as somebody lose, it can be a great fight. They willing to turn them down and throw them out the sport. And when I look at that situation, I'd be like, man, that's what's really holding the sport back, and that's what really make these fighters not want to get in there with each other. It's just my opinion. The best fighting the best, like back in the days, because they feel like if they take a loss, the fans just ride them off, and then they one loss, they feel like their career is done.
Yes, and you know what is interesting as well, when you look back on some of these guys a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years later, nobody remembers who they lost against, but they do remember who they beat, and they do remember how exciting they are. So I believe a fighter's career is not defined by the losses he has, but by the wins he has, and by the style he fights in. And there are fighters, even if they lose, I like to see them, be it because they're very good in the ring and they love to engage, and they love to go toe to toe, and they like to slug it out. I mean, they have an attractive style. Or like you look at some of the other fighters, like for example, an Adrian Broner. People watch Adrian Broner because he is a personality, and there is that it factor he has. They love to hate him. It's a little bit like with Mayweather. I mean, Mayweather, let's face it, didn't really have the most attractive style from a boxing point of view. But if you put his style and the fact that he was undefeated, and these people rooting against him, these haters he had wanting to see him lose, and then that together with his personality and his charisma, that made him arguably the greatest of all time, or certainly the greatest of our time. And he knew how to evoke emotions, and that's what it is. If you want to become a pay-per-view star, just being a good fighter is not enough. You need to be big. If you're a good fighter, you're going to bring in the casual boxing fans. You're going to get in of course, the real boxing fans, and you might even cross over into some of the general sports fans. But if you want to move into the general market like Oscar did or Floyd did, then you need to be able to evoke emotions in people so that they just want to watch you. And Mayweather was a master at that. Yes. Still is.
Yes, sir. What you got for him, Keith?
So, Richard, right now, the state of boxing is, I don't know, at times it's really messed up because it's really hard to get some of these fights with all these different promotional companies and things. I want you to speak on the state of boxing when you were running Golden Boy, as far as how hard or how easy was it to make these matchups with the best fighting the best?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the networks as well. So you can't really just blame the promoters for not making certain fights, because look, if Eddie Hearn has the Zone, or Aram has an exclusive relationship with ESPN, or Al has one with Showtime and with Fox, these networks invest substantial amounts of money into those fighters. So do they want to see the biggest fights then end up on a rival platform? No, because they feel like, why did we spend all this money? Why did we build these guys up? And now the biggest fight comes and it's going to be on ESPN instead of Fox or Showtime, or it's going to be on Fox and Showtime instead of ESPN. So this is like a little bit a network issue as well. But back in the day, it was always little bit like that. But like when I was at Golden Boy, with Aram, with Bob, we always found a way. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to go and have like drinks with the guy, which actually I did as well. Bob is a lot of fun, I have to say. But you don't need to be somebody's best friend. You need to do what is right for the fighters, and you need to go and put these fights together, whether it was with Ricky Hatton and Pacquiao, what I mentioned before, Hopkins and Kelly Pavlik, or Barrera and Morales, or a bunch of different fights we did together. So you have to find a way, and I think now it's maybe some promoters sort of like take the easy way out and say, oh, it can't be done, and they blame this or they blame that. But I think, if there is a will, there is a way. And I think that's still true today. It's maybe not easy, but find a solution, because you really help the career of your fighters. They might not always win when you put them in those difficult matchups. Like, for example, we want to see Spence and Crawford, right?
Yes.
That's not just that's important for those two fighters, and I do believe that the two fighters actually would like to fight each other. So find a way, because that's what the sport lives at. If you deprive the fans and the sport from these fights, then you really do a disservice to the sport. And so I think there has to be more effort on everybody's part to make these big fights happen.
True. So looking at it, Rich, you were Golden Boy. What year would you say was the most thriving year for Golden Boy? For you being there, like we say, this was a good year for Golden Boy.
Oh, it was definitely the years with Floyd Mayweather, where we did all these these pay-per-views we did. I remember we did like Ring Kings, where you had like Mayweather and Cotto, and on the undercard was Canelo and Shane Mosley. On the undercard,
yes.
Yeah, on the undercard. I mean, it's unbelievable. Wow. You don't see this anymore. Or when we did, actually, I'm just gonna see which one exactly it was. When we did another huge Mayweather pay-per-view was Mayweather against Canelo.
Yes.
And you know who was on the undercard? Danny Garcia and Lucas Matisse.
Yep.
I mean, these Lucas Matisse and Danny Garcia in today's age, they would be a standalone pay-per-view. We had them on the same pay-per-view like Mayweather and Canelo, or as I said, the Ring Kings pay-per-view with Mayweather and Cotto and Mosley and Canelo. I mean, these were events, and the MGM Grand in all of Vegas was buzzing. It was just like these. You had the stars there. You had A-level stars. You had Brad Pitt. You had Angelina Jolie. You had all these big name stars out there. They showed up. And that elevated the sport. That made the sport bigger.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this too, Rich. Let my brother get back in. Man, Jess, how did that fight come about with Canelo? First of all, Rich, how did Canelo get to Golden Boy? Was that your doing, or was it, y'all just sent him a kid over in Mexico that was already buzzing?
Well, actually, it goes back to when we did our first pay-per-view. It wasn't very big, but it was our very first pay-per-view. We did it out of Los Angeles. It was Chololo Larios, Mexican world champion. He was fighting, I think it was around 2004, 2005, something like that. I think 2004. And anyway, his manager, Chololo Larios, he had another Mexican star back then, Javier Jauregui, another world champion. And so this guy, this Mexican guy, he passed away now. He had an amazing talent he had an amazing eye for talent. He had many of the old-time greats like Daniel Zaragoza and Roman, many of the great Mexican stars this guy discovered. His name was, they called him the Cobra, Rafael Mendoza. And Rafael Mendoza came one day to me. It was like around 2005 or 6 or so, during that time when we were promoting Larios and Jauregui, and he says, I'm older now, but I think I discovered the best fighter I ever discovered. I said, really? He said, he's a Mexican redhead. I said, a Mexican redhead? I've got to see this guy. He says, well, he's going to be doing some fights now. I'm going to keep him busy in Mexico. He needs to learn. And when the time is right, I'm going to bring him to the United States, which eventually he did. I think it was in 2007 or 8 or so when we did the first fight. And I remember when there was a big music festival, the annual Hispanic festival in downtown Los Angeles called Fiesta Broadway. And so we had like a stand there for boxing. So I told Rafael Mendoza, that's a perfect spot to introduce your Mexican redhead to the LA fight fans and to the LA market, because this is like hundreds of thousands, millions of people. It's like a 3-day event. I'm going to be there, so we should have him there and present it. And he said, okay, so there comes Canelo. And the first time I saw him, he was like ripped jeans and like a white T-shirt, and then you had that red hair. I mean, he looked like the Mexican James Dean, and that's exactly what I told him. I said, "Man, you look like the Mexican James Dean." He was smiling. He didn't speak English or not much, but I'm sure he understood, or maybe he didn't. Maybe he was being polite. I didn't even know what he knew who James Dean was, but. Anyway, he got it, and I said, "You're going to be a huge star," and that was the beginning of Canelo. And then we signed him to a promotional agreement and started to build him up. And he's the kind of guy who always wanted a tougher opponent and a tougher opponent and a tougher opponent throughout his time. You know, he always likes to challenge himself, and he's still exactly that same way, and that is very refreshing. You know. And so one day, after he beat Mosley, which I have to say I was very nervous. Mosley was still Mosley, you know, and he had a lot of experience. He's going in against this young guy. I was very nervous. And Canelo always told me, "Oh, just sit there inside, enjoy the fight. Everything will be okay. Don't worry about it." And I was sitting there very nervous, and he of course beat Mosley, and then went on to some other fights. And then one day he comes and says, "Look, I want to fight Floyd Mayweather." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I want to fight Floyd Mayweather." I said, honestly, I think you're better off waiting a couple of years or so." He said, No, I want to fight Floyd Mayweather. And so I don't want to fight anybody else. You have to get that fight done. So I got the fight done, and you know what happened. But I think it was exactly that fight which actually helped to make Canelo who he is today. He learned a lot in that fight, and I think it made him a better fighter. And I think it helped making him the superstar, the face of boxing, the pound-for-pound best. And as Julio Cesar Chavez said last Saturday, when he was senior, when he was fighting in Mexico, maybe the best fighter ever to come out of Mexico. And of course, Canelo took the microphone from him then, told him, no, don't say that. You, Julio Cesar, you are the greatest fighter of all time. That just shows you as well how humble he still is, how down to earth this guy still is. And it's just, he's an amazing fighter, but he's an amazing, you know, you follow him on social media, he's an amazing, he got married now, amazing husband, great father, and just one hell of a fighter. So good things happen to good people, and I couldn't be happier for Canelo. Now he has his freedom, so he's a promotional free agent, and he can pretty much dictate what he wants, and he gets it because he's Canelo.
That's right. You can't.
He earned it. He earned it. You know.
Can't hold a good man down. What you got, Keith?
So Richard, you know, like I said earlier, when you were running Golden Boy, boxing was booming. It was booming at one point, and then when you left, it was like the game was missing you. Now I know that you do have your own promotional company, Ringstar Sports, but before we get into that, it's been a lot of speculations over the years on why you left Golden Boy. You know, I want to hear from you. What made you ultimately say, you know, I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and move on?
Well, you know, at one point, you know, Oscar started to have issues, and we don't need to go into that, you know, and everybody knows it. And I'm not really, you know, I sort of like put that behind me, that chapter, and, you know, like Canelo fought Mayweather, you learn from it, and you move on, and if you learn from things, and you become better in whatever you do, then it really isn't a loss, it's a gain. It's a gain in your life, in your career, and in everything. And it sort of like was the same for me. So I really have I don't want to say bad things about Oscar, because the fact is, I was there from 2000 until 2014. And, you know, just like I said before, from great fighters, you really remember their wins, and you really don't remember their losses. If I'm going to tell you how many times did Sugar Ray Leonard lose, or, you know, you remember those great fights he had. And it's a little bit the same here. I have much more positive experiences and memories about my time with Golden Boy than the negative ones. Yes. And when the negative ones became more more frequent, I knew it was time for me to move on. And you move on, and you do something else, and you get re-energized again. And that's sometimes a good thing as well. I mean, you can stay in a certain place, but you need to be happy to go to work. You need to really love what you do, to wake up and be excited about it. And if that excitement and that fire is not there anymore, then that's a sign for you to move on in no matter what you do, not just in boxing or boxing promotion, in anything you do. And that sort of like was the time for me to move on. And that's exactly what I did. And that's not easy. When you are somewhere and you're set in your ways and you go in the morning to work and you pretty much know what the paycheck will be, and suddenly to sort of like move out of that and say, hey, you know what? I don't want to keep on doing this. I don't think I'm appreciated the way I should be. And it's time for me to move on. It's not an easy thing, but I did it. And I never looked back. And I'm happy that I took that decision. And, I'm working on some, I have the promotion company Ringstar now, but that's not really satisfying to me. I want to do bigger things, and I'm working on some bigger things, which I can't talk about now, but there's some new big things in store where I want to bring back that time we had back in the days.
Man, when I tell you, Rich, like this is like sincerely from I made a post on Instagram. I'm a fan to show you, man. When I tell you though, I was like hurt when you left the game because I knew what it was already. But I remember, I think it was your first interview back, and they was asking you how you was getting along, and I think you was like, yeah, I'm in real estate and I'm doing this. But I think you announced that you was coming back to the game. I don't know if you said you was coming back or not, but when I tell you, I was praying for you to come back because I already knew what type of individual you was. Like I said, I listened to fighters talk about you, and then like with Floyd, because Floyd is my GOAT. So when every time he said Richard Schaefer made Golden Boy this that, so it just just put that extra up on you, just to praise you. But you never ever, and like I said, you kind of like Canelo. It got to take a lot. So if Richard Schaefer talking about you, it had to take a lot for you to push him to the edge, and it started like Canelo. So I was looking at you like I knew you was gonna bounce back. Like I said, you can never keep a good man down, but I remember, I think to your promotion company, the first signing was the Baldarius brothers. Am I wrong? Am I right?
Yes. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yes. Yeah. So you see. I think first of all, Floyd is just an amazing guy, and I remember when I resigned from Golden Boy and I was leaving the office, like within half an hour, the news were spreading like fires through the sports world. One of the very first calls I got was actually from Floyd, and he went public. He gave reports. He says, if Richard is not a Golden Boy, I'm not a Golden Boy. I'm with Richard, So he's a loyal guy. Look at how loyal he's been with Al as well. So he's just, he's the kind of guy who talks the talk, and he certainly talks the talk. But you know what? He walks the walk. And as much as he talks the talk, he walks the walk. I mean, he backs up what he says, and I respect him for that. And as it relates to signing young fighters and building them up and so on, I always liked that, and I still do. I have this amazing young Lithuanian Olympian in Mantic Stanionis.
Okay.
He's going to become world champion, no question about it. He's actually going to be fighting on July 31st, I think, in New Jersey. So I think he's going to be on Fox, if I'm not mistaken. So I like to give opportunities to fighters, young or old, like you saw with Donair. I mentioned it before. As long as fighters believe in me and they are straightforward and honest and loyal. Hey, I'm all for it and all with them, and I'm all in. And it was very nice, by the way, from you mentioned Canelo. When Canelo gave that interview to set the record straight, I never really said what really happened at Golden Boy and what went down, because you know what, so be it. You move on. You want to be the bigger man, and it was well documented that Oscar sued me for $50 million.
Right.
But you know what? We in the end settled it, and everything was fine, and you move on. And I never said anything. And then Canelo came out and made this interview, and he sort of like set the record straight. And then you guys, Manny, you put the pieces together.
Yes, sir.
And that was very nice of you, and was very nice on very nice of Canelo, and I really appreciate it. Eventually the truth comes out. I mean, it's just the way it is, and sometimes it takes a bit longer than you would like to, but sometimes not saying anything says enough.
Yes, sir. Killing with success.
Yeah.
What you got, Key?
Yeah, so Richard, you've always had very high things to say about Al Haymon. I don't think it's a secret that you and Al Haymon have a very good working relationship in the past. Do you guys still have a working relationship now that you do have your own, your Star Sports promotion? Let the people know about your working relationship with Al Haymon.
Well, I have a great relationship. I was working with Al for a long time, and Al is doing his thing, and good for him. But I don't have any. I mean, I talk to Tobbs, to Buff. I have a good relationship with pretty much everybody, because I think it's important. If you're in boxing, you need to be able to work with everybody. And if you're just going to go and do your own thing and you sort of like play within your own sandbox, you really do, first and foremost, your fighters a disservice, but you really do the sport a disservice as well. But look, Al is a smart guy. I mean, he built up PBC, he got these network deals. And so, and I like to deal, it's much easier to deal with smart people than it is to deal with dumb people, because with smart people, you get somewhere, you can have a conversation with them, they get it. And, often the ones, those around, they think they know everything, but the fact is they really know nothing. And those are the most difficult ones to deal with. And so, I have a good working relationship with Al.
Man, how is it working with Al, though, Richard?
Oh, it's great, because as I said, he's a smart guy. He's very busy. I mean, you can imagine he has all these fighters and all these fights. So it's very, back in the day when he was managing Mayweather and some other fighters, he obviously had his music business as well. So he was much more accessible. And now he's just so busy with, the man has almost every week or certainly every other week a show, either on Showtime or on Fox. So he's a very busy guy, but I still talk to him regularly if we need to get something done. But you don't want to call somebody like that just to say, oh, how is the weather over there in Cleveland? Here in LA, it's really hot. You need to be smart about these things. And, but when he's out here, we get together and we see each other, and we have breakfast or lunch or whatever, and we talk about we talk about everything. Really, we talk about everything. But you need to know when to do that. Not like when he's negotiating big fights or trying to put together big fights. I mean, he doesn't have time. So that's the way it goes. But he is obviously a very powerful man in boxing, and I think he's put together some big fights. And, again, the fighters like him, so there's really nothing. There's nothing more to say.
Right, it's chess, not checkers. But Richard, how many fighters that you have on the Ring Star right now?
Well, I really sort of scaled it down because, as I said, I was working on some other things, and I keep on working on some other things. So I have Apache, the cruiserweight, who is now the mandatory. I think it's in the WBA for the cruiserweight title, yes. And then I have Noniot Donair, and I have Imantis Jones, and I have a young Mexican kid again, not from too far away from where Canelo came. He's in Guadalajara as well. His name is Molina. So we have I have like a handful of fighters, and I really don't plan right now to sign much more fighters. As I said, I'm working on some stuff, and I just want to be able, signing fighters. I could sign fighters all day. I mean, there was like an Olympic gold medalist, and silver medalist offered to me last week. I could sign fighters all day long, but what is really important is when you sign fighters, I take that as a responsibility to you need to look out for them because they basically put their career and their life in your hands. Sure. And so it's not just so easy like, oh yeah, man, let me sign you. So I think the key is, and you see that with many of the promoters, if you don't have a direct TV, if you don't have a TV deal, if you don't have yourself a TV platform, it's just very, very difficult to build up a fighter. And I don't want to stand in a fighter's way, you know. So, like, for example, you mentioned about the Errol brothers. Yes, I released them. I think they're with Top Rank now because Top Rank has ESPN. So I talked about Errol's father, you know, and I explained to him that it's for their sons, it's in the best interest to be somewhere where they can be seen on a regular basis. So I always want to do the right thing for the fighters. And if I can do that, like in Donair's case again, then I do it. And if I can't, I don't want to stand in anybody's way. I'm not just going to be holding somebody's career back. That's not what good people do.
That's right, man. And I'm gonna let my brother get in here, but Oscar, I mean, sir, I'm gonna call you Oscar, Rich. But Rich, how did you? Are you still working with Jon Jones? How did that come about?
Yes. So I, because, you know, as I said, I mean, literally, I get calls like I wouldn't say all day long, but certainly a couple of times a week of athletes who like to work with me and have me help them in advising them, even if it's non-boxing people, even non-boxing people, because of my expertise in the TV business, the sports business, and knowing how their different revenues flow, and, you know, they ask me if they're being treated fairly, and, you know, things like that. So often I just do that as a favor, and, you know, help them and give them some tips. And I don't make no money on that. And then came Jon Jones. He was introduced to me by a friend, and we immediately clicked. He is the GOAT of UFC in a way. Even Dana White says that.
Yes, sir.
You go to the UFC website, you go to the pound for pound fighters, he's number one pound for pound still today. I mean, it's amazing what the man has achieved. You know, he had that controversial loss, which everybody says he really didn't lose. So he's really undefeated. He is the kind of guy like Canelo who likes to challenge themselves to fight the best. And that's exactly what GOATs do. They keep challenging themselves. And now he wants to move up to heavyweight. And he was a bit at an impasse in his negotiations. So he asked me to come and help him. I got together with him. We immediately liked each other. He's just a nice guy.
Yes,
Came across very well. Very smart guy. Talks very well. And knows exactly what he wants. And I like people like that who are, even though they are GOATs, even though they have achieved so much already, they're still hungry, they still want to do more, they still want to keep on proving themselves. And that was right up my alley, and we immediately, struck up a friendship right there, and then it was just a matter of getting everything done. And now I'm advising Jon Jones and see if I can help him in his negotiations to get that big fight against Francis Ngannou. For the heavyweight title, eventually done. It's probably going to be later on this year or early next year, so we'll see. But that's how that came along. And, you know, the same is with others. I really like that aspect of, it goes back to what I said before, helping athletes. That's what I really like.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You good on the time, Rich?
Yeah, we're fine.
Fine. Okay. What you got for him, Keith?
Richard, man, like you said earlier, a fight that everybody wants to see, even including yourself, is Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. Now, it's a lot of back and forth with the business of boxing when it comes to that. You got two different networks. You got PBC, you got ESPN, and you got the fighters talking about the split. You got Errol Spence saying 60-40. You got Terrence Crawford saying, I'm not fighting unless it's 60-40 my way or 50-50. You knowing about the business in boxing and being a former promoter yourself, how would you get that fight done? Or what has to happen to get that fight done?
Well, I mean, look, Spence now has a huge challenge ahead of him, which I really like that fight with Spence and Pacquiao. I think that's, in my opinion, this is a classic 50-50 fight. And give you reasons why Spence is going to win, and give you plenty of reasons why Pacquiao is going to win. It's a fascinating matchup. And I think it's going to make Spence even bigger. And, he sells out there, Jerry World in Dallas. So, he's really moving in the right direction. And I think this fight is for him as an athlete, as a person, but really as a crossover star. This is this is the biggest test of his career. If he can beat Manny Pacquiao, that will elevate him to a totally different level. And, unfortunately, Crawford has been sort of like a bit sitting on not sitting on the sidelines, but he was sort of like not that it was his fault at all. He's sort of been sitting on the sidelines as it relates to quality of opponents, because in his particular weight class, most opponents are on the other side of the street, as they say, or if it's a Sean Porter or Danny Garcia or Keith Thurman, Mikey Garcia, all these guys, and they sort of like he had a difficult time getting these marquee names. So if you don't really get these marquee names, you're sort of like market value is sort of like stuck, and if the other guy keeps getting these marquee names and keeps fighting these big fights and making these big amounts of money, then I can understand Errol why he's saying he should get the bigger split. And I'm sure Errol is convinced he's going to beat him, and so is Crawford. So probably the one thing to do is you make it a real prize fight. You make it 45-45, and the winner gets the extra 10%. So something like that, or 40-40, and the winner gets an extra 20%. Then you make it really prize fighting at that level. So there's sort of like these kind of discussions I think are going to have to happen. And as we see now the network issue for these mega fights, if it's a smaller fight, it's very difficult to get these fights done because of what I said before. Networks don't want to let their fighters go after they invested all that money. So it's difficult for the smaller fights, still meaningful and interesting fights, but those fights which are really pay-per-view worthy, like a Crawford-Spence fight, would definitely be a pay-per-view fight, and it would be one of the biggest fights of the sport in any given year. Those, you can now make deals where both networks are carried the pay-per-view, and that makes the event even bigger. A perfect example is Tyson Fury, who is with ESPN and with Top Rank, and he's going to be fighting Deontay Wilder, who is with PBC and Fox. So now you're going to have Fox and ESPN, both platforms, promoting the event. Imagine how big that is. Now you have two major networks promoting the fight. That's great for the fight, it's great for the sport, and it's great for the fighters because they're going to make a lot of money. So now in a Spence and Crawford fight, you can use that same blueprint. You can do the same blueprint where you have Spence on one side with Fox or Showtime, and you have Crawford with ESPN and Bob, and they can fight each other, and everybody wins. Nobody gives up anything, and the biggest winner of them all is the sport of boxing. So, as I said before, where there is a will, there is a way, and I always got the biggest fights done. There's only one fight I didn't get that. But only one big fight in my entire time with Golden Boy that I did not get done. But other than that, I got every single fight done, every single big fight done, because you work on it and you find a way.
Could you tell us what that fight is, or you just keep that in the bag?
Yeah, I knew you were gonna ask me. Yes, that was actually Mayweather and Pacquiao. Back in the day, that was in the early days when these conversations were happening, and I think the stars were just not aligned. Would I have liked to see Mayweather and Pacquiao back then? Yes, but I was happy seeing it when it happened, because the fact is, both of these guys, since the fight didn't happen, Mayweather went on to fight the biggest and best names in the sport, and so did Pacquiao. So it's not like that these guys were not fighting each other and each one was taking tune-up fight after tune-up fight after tune-up fight. No, they both challenged themselves, and they both continued their legendary status, and it was just not meant to be back then, and that was the only one.
Okay, Rich. Now, I follow you a lot. So after I seen when Mikey came back after this situation with Bob Earn, I seen y'all did the co-joint. How many fights was it with Mikey? And after the Mikey and Errol fight, you said that you gave Errol all this praise. You said that was like one of the best performances you've seen in your entire career watching boxing. And you've seen a lot of fights, right? And you said that it was the Errol Spence era, and it's the big fights out there, and go make them happen.
Yes, no, absolutely. I'm a big believer in Errol Spence, and this is a dangerous fight he takes on. And as I said, I have to give all the credit to him and his team to accept that fight, to keep on challenging himself. And, there were like people out there after he had his horrible accident. They thought like maybe he's never going to be the same. But man, I think he came back and maybe came back even better. So, I hate to say that because I hope he's never going to race in a car again, but he certainly came back stronger and big. And he when we look what he did with Mikey Garcia. You mentioned that Mikey Garcia was back then in the top 5 most people's pound for pound list.
True.
Just an amazingly gifted athlete and just beautiful to watch as well. And I mean, look what Spence did that night. It was a masterpiece. It was a masterpiece. And so I think sitting there ringside and seeing Spence in action against such an amazing pound for pound fighter, Mikey Garcia, that made me, I was sort of like a believer before, but then when I saw what he did there, I knew time has started, and that is the Errol Spence era. So I think he is today. I think he's still a little bit underrated because when I read these pound for pound lists, you have rightfully. I don't think there's. I mean, if anybody makes anyone else but Canelo number 1, then they don't really know what's going on in the sport. So Canelo is clearly number 1. But then you have you still have Lomachenko there. You have Crawford there. You have. I think Spence, in my opinion, should be number 2 on the list, just based on what he has done and the kind of fighters he fought. And they have I think the monster Inoue, who fought last week and had a great performance. He's obviously on there as well, but I could not explain why I would put him in front of Errol Spence. I mean, I was in Tokyo on that fight for the World Boxing Super Series final with Donair and with Inoue, and I mean Donair almost knocked him out, broke his eye socket. The kid couldn't fight for 18 months, 12 months, something like that. Yeah. So I mean, and then you look at kind of performances Errol has, how dominant they are. I think the way you win, not just that you win, but the way you win and how easy you make it look is really what makes in my books a fighter a candidate for that top pound for pound spot or top 3 pound for pound spot. And that's why I say as well with Canelo, it's not just that Canelo is beating all these guys, but what Canelo does is he makes it look easy. He makes it look easy. He makes these guys who are the best in their respective division, he makes them look like they don't belong. And that is the sign of pound for pound the best fighter in the world. And that's how Mayweather was. I mean, he just, hit and don't be hit. That was his thing. And he was a master at it. He just executed perfectly, and that's exactly what Canelo does. And that's why I think Errol Spence, sometimes I feel when people talk about these pound for pound discussions, that I think Errol Spence should be there as number 2.
Thank you so much, Rich. And it's crazy because me and my brother were just talking about that before you got on, and he mimicked, every word that you just said, man. That's crazy. But, Rich, that's what I respect about you, because it don't matter if you're on the winning side or the losing side, you're going to get a just due and the credit to the fighter that they deserve. And, you never shied away from that. You always been straight from the beginning. And I think that's what we appreciate about you the most. And I think you so underrated, and you don't get the flowers you deserve, man. And it kind of bothered me a little bit, Yeah, but let's talk about this, Rich, because now that you got him, Noniot Donair, he knocked out my St. Louis brother and Stephon Young. It hurt my little soul. I'm like, wow. But Noniot, man, that's one interesting dude. He's one, that's a good soul, a good dude. How did that come about? Because when he lost at 126, and he went, I think it was 126 or 22, and he went down to 118. I'm one of the dudes, I'm not going to lie. I'm like, man, Noniot, you going to 118? I'm like, man. And then the fight with Ryan Burnett, and I thought Ryan Burnett would have won that fight if it weren't for the situation. But nonetheless, things happen in the sport, and you can't take it away. But him going up against Inoue, I didn't know Noniot still had that in him. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, man, Inoue probably could have knocked Noniot out, man. This and that, man. He went out there, showed up, and performed. But first thing I want to ask, Rich, is how did y'all swing him versus John Casamajera?
Well, I mean, first of all, I ended up getting involved with Nonito because actually a very good friend of mine, well, Nonito and me always wanted to work together, going back to the Golden Boy days. And actually, he signed the Golden Boy, then Errol came and he sued us, and he said he still had the contract with him, and Nonito had to go back. So sort of like it didn't happen then, but then when he was released after he lost against Magdaleno, which, you know, a lot of people felt he actually won that fight in Vegas against Magdaleno. He was released by Top Rank. He came to see me and actually the suggestion as well of Jin Mosley, Shane's ex-wife. I always had a very nice relationship with Jin. I think Jin did a hell of a job with Shane and really looked out for him, and I respected her for that, and I always had a very nice relationship with her, and Jin and Rachel Donair are very good friends. And so Jin said, "Oh, you've got to go and see Richard. You know, he's gonna resurrect your career." And Rachel said, "Oh, planning to do that anyway." So they came to see me, and we worked out an agreement. And I said, "Okay." I gave him one of the undercards of the season 1 of World Boxing Super Series in Texas, San Antonio. I gave him a coming back fight, a tune-up fight. Okay, had some ring rust and so on, but it was okay. He was fighting, I think, at 126 or 130 even. And then he said he really would like to fight Carl Frampton. So I got the Carl Frampton for him. I went with him to Ireland, and he lost that fight against Carl Frampton. Right. It was a good fight. It was a very entertaining fight. He made a lot of fans over there in Ireland because you hit the he is just an amazing guy who he carries himself outside of the ring as well. A great father, a great husband, and an amazing legendary fighter. So he when you watch that fight with Frampton, in the very end, you see me when the fight is over. I go and jump up on the ring, and he comes over to me, and you see me talking to him. And what did I tell him right there in Ireland, right after the fight? I said, "Hey, can you make 118? And he looks at me, "Why?" He said, "Well, I have a crazy idea, but can you make 118? And he says, "Yes, I can make 118. I said, "Okay. Why?" I said, "Well, I'll talk to you when we're back in the States. Let me work on something." So then I called the owner of the World Boxing Super Series, my friend Bernard Burgener in Basel, and I asked Carly Sauerland, I asked him, "Hey, we're gonna do the 118 tournament at the World Boxing Super Series. I really want to put Noniot Donair in." And they said, "Yeah, but he's too big." He said, "No, he can do weight." They said, "Oh, we don't have problems, then he misses weight." I said, "He's never going to miss weight. If Nonito tells me he can make it, you can take this to the bank." That's what professionals do. And so I put him in the tournament. I think he was like 6 fighters fighting. He was seeded number 5 or 6. Nobody really gave him a chance. But I knew that at 118, Nonito Donair is the big guy. He's the big puncher. And all of these guys there, they haven't seen anything like him. And because at 126 or 130, he's fighting bigger guys. Sure. And he's not the big guy. He's the little guy. So you want to be, if you can, it's easier to beat up a little guy than beat up a bigger guy. Sure. And so he obviously, made it to the final. He won the belt against Ryan Burnett, and I think he was actually up after the first 2 rounds or so. Then, he was actually not up, but he started to come up pretty strong. And anyway, he won the belt, and then he obviously had that final against Inoue, and that was a hell of a fight. So that was clearly not the end. And then I saw it because he has always been a legendary and very loyal WBC champion. He really earned the right to become mandatory for Nordine Ubali, the WBC champion, who actually I had promoted at one point as well in France. Okay. And so I put that fight together, and we all know what happened. And the funny interesting thing is, before, maybe 5 minutes before the ring walk, I was with Nonito in the locker room the whole time. Okay. During that night, and I asked him, "So now, tell me, what is your game plan?" And he said, "Look, I'm going to let him win the first 2 rounds, and he's going to think that's easy. and he's going to be very comfortable in there. And then he's going to start making mistakes. And when he's going to make mistakes, I'm going to knock him out. I swear to God, that's what he said. And I said, well, that sounds pretty simple. And you know what? That's exactly what he did, because he lost the first 2 rounds on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards. And then, of course, he made a mistake and he knocked him out. And that's what he did. And then he made it clear to me that he wanted to unify and become the undisputed unified bantamweight world champion. And so I put my thinking cap on. I used my connections, my relationships, and everything, and I was able to get him that fight with Casimiro. And I think that's going to be a great fight. I think it's the first time that 2 Filipino world champions are actually fighting each other. So this is historically a significant fight as well. And it's a fight which can lead and will lead to the undisputed bantamweight championship. And so that's what the sport is, and that's what we need to do. And that's exactly the kind of fights we need to give these fighters for their legacy. And that's what they want. That's what they live for.
Man, you played a trump card on that one. Okay, we'll have a couple more questions, Rich, and we'll let's get up out of here. What you got, Keith?
Man, Noniot Donair hustled him, huh? Hey, so Richard Schaefer, you know, we got a lot of great talent in boxing right now. What fighter, if you were, you know, if you had to take one fighter right now, great young fighter right now, who would you take? Who would you, if you just had to have one fighter on your roster, who would you take?
Well, you know, I mean, obviously you said young fighters. So, I mean, if I would only be able to take one fighter, it would be Canelo. That would be an easy choice, you know. But when you say about young fighters, you know, that's the future of the sport. And I think we all need to invest in the future of the sport. And I wish sometimes that some of the media guys would spend more time on some of these young guys and give them the time, you know, to shine some light on them. And we you know, there's always different times, different fighters, but there's a handful of great young fighters. I really like, I think Shakur Stevenson is doing very well. You know, you have obviously Lopez, who is doing very well. You know, you have Ryan Garcia, who's doing well. I like, on my side, I obviously like very much Haymon. He's just like, he's like a machine. So he really impresses me. And then there is one guy I really like as well, who is a bit underrated still, but I really think he's a great fighter, and that is Virgil Ortiz. Okay. And so if I would have to pick one, I would obviously pick mine, Montes Caniones. But if I could pick another one, I'd probably pick Virgil Ortiz. I like the weight class he is in. I like his style. I like his dedication, and I think he's going to be a big name in the sport going forward.
What do you think? What do you think about Jaron Ennis?
Who?
Jaron Ennis.
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Oh, sorry. You said Jaron Ennis, Rich.
Oh, he's good too. You know, I'd like to see a little bit more. I'd like to see a little bit stiffer tests from him. But I definitely deserves to be in that mix. And absolutely, absolutely. He is right there as well. So he can be a big star as well. Very much like him as well.
And Rich, I want to say too that, man, I appreciate it. I ain't gonna say that you checked the reporter, but you did put him in his place when you was talking to at the post fight with Nonito. When he say gave him a puncher's chance, you say, hold on, wait a minute now, a puncher's chance. We talking about a 4-division world champion here, right? Hey, put the respect on his name. I say, Rich had to put him in his place.
That was funny. So you know how I am. I never mince words. I say it the way it is, and I just felt like. After this amazing performance. I mean, look, Noniot Donair was a 3-1 underdog. I mean, I could not understand why. And maybe the age. But, you know, so Noniot Donair is, 37, 38 years old. I mean, look, I promoted Top. He was 50 years old. So, and, you know, I was recently talking with another athlete, not in boxing, who was talking to me about the long layoffs. Are they good or are they bad? And sometimes, when you are in your 20s, you want to fight as often as you can. You want to stay, you want to learn, you want to keep that engine going without really turning it off. And when you get into your 30s, mid-30s, or even late 30s, it's sometimes not bad to take the layoff, because believe me, these 20s, when you're in your 20s and you fight often, you have all these training camps. It's not just in the ring, but all the training camps and all the sparrings, and people, not as you understand it, but casual fans or non people don't follow boxing. Those sparring sessions, if you go in a gym and you watch these sparring sessions, they're sometimes very brutal and they take a lot of a fighter. So for a fighter in his mid to late 30s to be able to sort of like say, hey, you know what, I'm going to take a year off, a year and a half off, then I'm going to come back and you're really going to let my body rest. That actually does a fighter good. And I saw that with Nonito. His body is re-energized, it's healed up, he feels great, So that's why I think, layoff sometimes is a good thing. And so then for this reporter to come and say to one of the greatest fighters, 4-division world champion, 9-time world champion now, and a guy who is not just a puncher, he can box, he can move. You look at Nonito's footwork, it's unbelievable, which, by the way, often people don't really watch footwork. You watch some of those guys like a Nonito or so, or even a Canelo, and forget the punches, you just watch a fight and you just look at the footwork. That is often the key to these fighters' success. So you look at the footwork from a Nonito, the technical abilities of him, then you have like a guy there saying that he had a puncher's chance. I mean, come on, that was disrespectful, and I was a guy who really didn't know boxing.
Yes, exactly. So, Rich, I'm gonna ask you this, and then I'm gonna let my brother get the last word in. I just want to get your thoughts on these upcoming fights. On the 26th, you got Gervonta Davis versus Barrios. What's your thoughts on that fight?
That's a great matchup. I know both fighters very well. I think Gervonta Davis is one of those guys because of his style, and he's a beautiful style to watch. He is relentless. He has great technical abilities. I mentioned to you guys the footwork as well before. Look at his footwork. I mean, he really is a complete fighter, and he's very charismatic as well. And so I think he's gonna go. He's going to go a long way, and it's going to be, Barrios. I know Mario Barrios very well too. He's a much bigger guy. So is it going to be the size or is it going to be the skills? I would have to go with the skills. So I think it's a very interesting matchup, though. It's for both of those guys their respective biggest tests, and that is how you get bigger, when you challenge yourself against these kind of opponents. And if Barrios loses, hey, you know what? That's okay, because he is still a great fighter, and he is an entertaining fighter, and he's still very young. And the same is for Gervonta Davis. You're there to be great. You take on these challenges. You win, great. On, and if not, it's not the end of it either. And that's what we talked about of this interview. All of us in the sport, starting with the networks, really, not to punish a fighter if he loses, but then with the fans as well, and the media and the promoters, with all of us in the sport, we need to be a little bit more flexible, and we need to be a little bit more have a little bit more understanding for these guys if they lose, if they dare to be great. If they dare to be great. I mean, if Travis Jr. loses against Anderson Silva, that's a different story, But here, this is like at that level, you win some and you lose some. This is a great fight.
Okay. And what you think about Lomachenko and Nakatani?
Well, we'll see. We'll see if his last performance was a slip up. I mean, obviously he had shoulder issues, so we'll see how great Lomachenko still is. I mean, I mentioned before about all the in the 20s, all the fights they do and all the training camps and so on, and how that accumulates and how that builds up and takes a toll on you. And you look at Lomachenko, he's, I think, the greatest, most successful amateur of all time, and he has something like, 200 amateur fights, or a crazy number of amateur fights. So imagine all the training camps, imagine all the fights, and so all that accumulates. So we really don't know how is Lomachenko going to be? Is he going to be the one before the Lopez fight, which really dominated, or is he going to be, was the Lopez fight sort of like the beginning of the end for Lomachenko? So we really don't know the answer, and that's why it makes it an interesting matchup, and that's what we really want to watch there.
Okay. I'm gonna let my brother get the last question in, Rich. Then we can wrap it up. What's the question, Keith?
Richard Schaefer, before we get out of here, I got 2 questions for you, okay? Now, I want to know, who is, in your opinion, who is the best fighter at 135 pounds? And also, before you get out of here, if you have to pick one in the Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao fight, if you just had to pick one, who is the winner?
Well, I think at 135 it's going to be Gervonta Davis, and I think and I think if Mikey Garcia could somehow, I mean, a fight I'd love to see there eventually with Gervonta Davis and Mikey Garcia, that would be a fascinating matchup.
Yes.
But I have a lot of these dream matchups, which who knows, maybe some of them are going to happen, some of them are not. Sort of like fights I like to see as a fan. And as it relates to Pacquiao and Spence, somebody told me once, you never bet against a legend, and which would be Pacquiao, but I have to make an exception here. I would have to go with Spence.
Okay. Well, man, Rich, you've been a great sport, man. I want to appreciate you for joining me, man. Like I said, this is an honor, and this is a highlight of my boxing career right here.
Yeah, and I think at the 130, you obviously have Jamal Herring as well, and Stevenson and all these guys. So, eventually they are going to be all moving up. And this is like the 130, 135. I sort of like group them a bit together. There's so much talent. If you think about it, there's so much talent around that division. There's Lopez there, of course. Can't forget him. But I just think, and even though Gervonta Davis is maybe a little bit bigger now, I think eventually they're going to fight each other. And if I would put these 4 in one group, I would have to say Gervonta Davis.
Yeah, I heard her first. Richard Schaefer saying Gervonta
anyway,
Davis
look,
the best.
guys, it's very nice of you. I really appreciate the passion you have for the sport and how you cover it, and that you covering it without an agenda, that you speak the truth. And that's what I try to do as a promoter, vice versa the fans and with the fighters, and just call it the way it is. And it's refreshing to see that with you guys. And Manny, again, for the kind of putting this I'm sure was that piece you did with Canelo was a lot of work, because you had to go and put all these pieces together, and you sort of like backtracked everything, and that was just a job well done. Keep up the good work, all of you guys, because the beneficiary of all your great work is really the fighters you cover, and that's what is very dear to me, and really the sport of boxing. So I thank you guys.
Man, thank you so much, Rich, for joining us, man. Any last words for Richard, Keith, before we get out of here?
Yeah, great interview, Richard. I mean, you didn't hold back. You answered all the questions, and it was an honor. And thank you so much, Richard Schaefer.
Anytime.
Okay.
Anytime.
All right.
And Manny, you have my number, so if you have ever, for any particular fight or anything, just shoot me a quick text, and you can call me, and I'll be happy to talk to you.
Okay, I appreciate that, Rich. You have a good one.
Okay, all the best. Bye.
All right. Man, what more can we say?
Yeah.
Great Richard Schaefer, man.
Yeah, great interview, man.
Great interview. Didn't hold back, answered all the questions with grace. You know what I'm saying? Put the hate behind him and just kept it real like he is, bro. That's why I respect Richard. That's why I give him his flowers right here so he can smell them. I think a lot of people go look back and see that, you know what I'm saying, once they get up there in age and they really see, like we told y'all, man, Richard brought Canelo to Golden Boy. Stop playing, bro. Y'all boys are, Oscar De La Hoya did this. Nah, man, Richard brought him. You see how he found him? Now, and I know y'all in the background, so put some respect on Richard Schaefer's name, bro.
You hit that like button. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of y'all sitting in here, it ain't hit the like button. Hit the like button. It don't cost nothing.
Yes, sir, man. But I don't even want to get into nothing else, man. I want to keep that where it's at, man. I appreciate Richard Schaefer. That interview was fire. And I think we're going to leave it here, man. Anything you got to say to the people?
No, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Y'all already know, man. Like I said, make sure you hit the like button, share this video on all your platforms, and let people see it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. I appreciate everybody, man, that came through, show love. Appreciate y'all coming in the building. Hey, chop it up. Do what you got to do with it. The great Richard Schaefer has spoken, man. And like I say, we was going to get to the bottom of some shit, and we did that. You feel me? Now, I want to see if these boys get Richard Schaefer just do it his credit. Or if they're going to try to make excuses and say everything De La Hoya touched turned to gold. No, everything Richard Schaefer touched turned to gold. Y'all heard him say it's only one fight that he couldn't make. Other than that, he made every other big fight that he wanted to make, bro. You feel me? So that's what it is, bro. I appreciate y'all, man. We finna get up out of here, man. Make sure y'all go follow my bro. Keep telling where to follow you at, kid.
Yeah, make sure that y'all go subscribe to my channel, Everything Boxing and Sports. Yeah, y'all know where to find me. We'll be back on tomorrow.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that underground, man. If y'all know what this me, man. It's your boy Money. It's the NSBC moving anybody safe in these streets. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. If you want to donate, OG Money on Cash App. TreyHampton52@gmail.com on PayPal. If not, just tell a friend, hit the subscribe button, like, comment, share the video. Y'all know how your boy get down, man. Big dog status, family. I appreciate y'all, man. We out.
Appreciate y'all.